Thousands of Canadian grandparents struggle to raise grandchildren, but the problem isn't just here in Canada. This is the South Bronx in New York City. A rough neighborhood, a tough place to raise a child. Really tough if you're a grandmother trying to do the job. Jan Flood is one of them.
It's hard raising children today, especially in the South Bronx where there's so much drugs and abuse.
This way, come on.
But in the middle of this urban jungle, there's an oasis called Grandparents' Family Apartment. It's a place of refuge, a place where grandparents and grandchildren can build a new life. Jan is raising 4 grandkids, 4 children she rescued from the foster care system. Jan was lucky enough to get shelter here.
Come on.
The complex is one of a kind, and it's working. David Taylor is the man who came up with the idea and built it with mostly donated money from the organization he runs called Presbyterian Senior Services.
And the purpose of this house is to provide affordable, safe housing for grandparents raising grandchildren, and also to provide an environment that the children, the grandchildren, can grow from and mature and become educated and be able to sort of go into the world and do their thing successfully.
But this safe haven only has room for a fraction of the families that need help. There are 86,000 grandparents raising grandchildren in New York City. Only 50 of them, the very poorest, get space here. Now David Taylor is challenging governments to step up and build more.
A building like this, if we can do it, why can't our government do it? Why can't the Canadian government do it?
But Canada hasn't done it.
Hey, I didn't get my hug and kiss, guys.
In North Bay, Ontario, Barbara Gladden's house is full to the brim with the 4 granddaughters she stepped in to help raise 6 years ago.
Love you.
They're not puppies, they're not kittens, they're not plants, they're not disposable. These are human beings. They need to be loved, they need to be nurtured, they need to be raised properly, taught right from wrong.
Barbara worried these girls weren't getting that at home, so she went to court fighting her own daughter for custody.
She has almost like a revolving door with men. The drinking, the smoking, possible drugs. My daughter, if she wants to hurt herself, that's fine. It's her she's hurting. But she's also destroying little innocent lives, and that's not right.
But $30,000 and much heartbreak later, Barbara discovered what most grandparents discover. Courts in Canada rarely consider grandmas as an option for custody.
I lost it. The judge decided that they'd be better off with their natural mother.
Okay, let's go. No cars.
Barbara might not have official custody, but she still has the job. Her daughter still gives her the girls 3 days a week, even giving Barbara permanent custody of the littlest one, Keiston.
I've had 3 heart attacks, and I've had several knee surgeries, so it's hard sometimes, but I love it. I love my grandchildren. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I want you to cut those into pieces.
The only money this grandmother gets to raise these 4 girls is a child tax benefit for little Keiston, a grand total of $260 a month.
It's hard. I have to plan meals, buy things on sale. You go without. The kids are more important.
It's a pure labor of love, but it's also saving taxpayers a bundle, more than $10 million a year in Ontario alone. And that's because, but for Grandma, these children would be wards of the state, bounced from foster home to foster home. But grandparents aren't getting much in the way of thanks, at least not from the government. In Toronto, Lynn Cunningham heads out to battle granny injustice. She calls it discrimination. And she's taking the case right to the office of the Ontario Ombudsman, trying to get some attention.
I'm dropping off an appeal.
And have your concerns fallen on deaf ears, or is there someone there paying attention to what you're
Well,
saying?
I mean, there are people who say they're concerned. To date, I feel as if it's still a lip service situation. I have not found anybody who said, yes, we're going to do something about this, and then seen that something's happened.
Nobody is helping Lynn raise her step-grandson. Even her husband, the boy's own grandfather, walked away.
You are not his biological grandmother.
That's right, I'm his step-grandmother.
So why would you take him in?
He was just this really great kid. I loved this child.
So any expenses in terms of assistance for his particular needs, you paid for?
That's right.
Out of your own pocket?
Yes.
How much money did you spend?
I would say easily $150,000, $200,000.
Is there any help for you out there?
No, basically.
Except for one program called Temporary Care Assistance, TCA. Grandparents in Ontario who are raising a child are supposed to be eligible for a welfare payment of $226 a month, but not all of them are getting the desperately needed money.
There are a number of jurisdictions currently in which people who achieve permanent custody are being cut off from the TCA.
So it's not applied uniformly across the province?
No, it seems to be whatever the director decides in that particular region.
So, while Lynn in Toronto gets the money, Beverly McIntosh, doing the same job in Hamilton, doesn't.
We love our grandchildren, but the burden, all the burdens fall entirely on the grandparents, which seems to be taking advantage of the sense of duty and love.
The Ontario government solution? A new law that will pay $900 a month to grandparents who rescue their grandkids from foster care. But there's a catch. Grandparents who are already doing the job may not qualify.
Anybody who already has custody of their child isn't eligible. The child involved has to be in care. The only way I could be eligible would be if I sort of trotted him off to the local children's aid and said, I've had it, here he is, he's all yours. And then applied to have him come back and live with me.
W5 went to the government to find out why all grandparents aren't treated equally. We asked Ontario's welfare minister, Madeleine Meilleux, why temporary care means different things in different parts of Ontario.
Our investigation has shown that a grandparent in one municipality in the province will receive TCA when another grandparent in another municipality will not receive it. How do you explain the discrepancy?
The discrepancy is probably because of the flexibility that the administrator have.
So if one grandparent moves from one municipality to another and then meets the criteria, they'd be entitled to a situation that's different than if they stayed where they were.
Indeed.
So tough luck. Whether or not grandparents get the money is up to the whim of the welfare administrator in each city. But what about that new law, Bill 210, that is supposed to help grandparents like Beverly? The way it's written, there's no $900 a month for these kids unless Beverly sends them to foster care and then tries to get them back. The minister says it's not going to work like that.
With the amendment of Bill 210, a grandparent can go back to a children's aid and say, financially, I cannot look after the children. And without giving the child away, the assessment from the Children's Aid Society can be conducted. And if the court decide that the grandparents are the best person to look after their children, then they will receive this additional amount.
While politicians and bureaucrats sort out the rules, Beverly McIntosh watches her life savings disappear and hopes for a little help.
In a few more years, when I have no more assets, I will have to sell my house. Where am I going to live? The government going to give me a place for free? We are in desperate need of funds to raise our grandchildren. We're saving them millions of dollars. They can give us a little bit to help.